Welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space, a space for you to settle in, sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on health, wellness, faith, family, and this crazy thing called life.
This podcast is not a replacement for mental health treatment or professional health care. In case of crisis or emergency, please contact your local healthcare provider or dial 911.
Hey there, and welcome to the Wing Space podcast, a place to take up space. I'm excited to continue sharing with you the 6 components of wellness that we are exploring this month as we embrace this idea of we've got your 6 here at Hope and Healing at the Wing Space podcast. We've got your back. Stay tuned for a quick message about some of our upcoming services, and then we're going to jump into social wellness as one of the 6 components of wellness.
Hey mamas, whether you are preparing for or recovering from childbirth, this 6-week progressive series coming soon to Hope and Healing is for you. Join Carlin Davensizer this September for pelvic floor physical therapy classes, curated especially for our pre- and postpartum community members. If you experience pelvic floor symptoms, diastasis, or pelvic, hip, and back pain, the movements and exercises will be beneficial for your core and pelvic floor. To register or ask questions, email admin@hopehealingtherapy.com.
So welcome back, and we're going to jump into this component of wellness today, talking about social wellness, talking about this idea of how we build and we engage with others in relationships and really authentic relationships. You know, we often engage with other people throughout the day, the gas station and at the grocery store and at the doctor's office and all these things, but really it's the meaningful relationships that are so important. I shared with you guys in a previous episode regarding some of the other components of wellness that I'm using some information from NIH, the National Institutes of Health, as well as the University of New Hampshire, when we explore these components. And some people might say, you know, social wellness, what is that? And really, when we're looking at social wellness, we're looking at our ability to engage in relationships in a way. There's going to be conflict, so how do we assert ourselves in, you know, healthy, positive ways in terms of setting expectations and boundaries in relationships, balancing time with friends and colleagues and family with that of our own time. You know, a lot of people think about introverts are shy people that don't like to socialize, and extroverts are social butterflies. And for some people that might very well be true. But for other people, it's about where we get our energy and what depletes our energy. So I would say, for me, I am a introverted extrovert. Maybe that's the way I should say it, is that I love to be around people. I love to socialize. I love a good party or cookout or get together, but I also need independent Jennifer time in order to regroup, in order to have just quiet time in my head and in my physical space around me. So I would say that while I'm energized by social activities, I also get depleted, and I need to kind of rebuild or re-energize through some introverted time. And so for a lot of introverts, social events suck the life out of them. And being alone is what helps to recharge them. And that's where they kind of stay within homeostasis. And the opposite is true for extroverts, that the idea of being by themselves is just horrifying, and that they get their energy from being with other people. But we still have to balance social time versus me time, so to speak. And part of being able to engage in me time is knowing who you are, knowing what is it that makes up you as you. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we can improve our social health and wellness if you find yourself not being able to have fun, not knowing how to engage with other people, maybe not knowing who you are, maybe your circumstances have changed and you've had a change in connections or something like that. So how do we improve that social health? So National Institutes of Health gives us 6 ideas for that, and I'm going to go over those with you today. The first one is making connections. A lot of us have connections, but we don't always work to keep them. And relationships take a lot of effort. Relationships take time, they take investment, and sometimes those circumstances change. You might be, I'll use an example, like you might be a mom that is now an empty nester, and your children are off to college, or they've moved out of the house, they're on to other things, and all of your relationships and social engagement were surrounding their activities. And so now you need to find other ways to engage. So maybe it's rebuilding a previous hobby or activity, or maybe finding a new one, learning something new, a cooking class or an art class, or something that you can not only engage your brain, intellectual health, we'll talk about that, that's important in this series, but also being able to develop some relationships around those new activities. Maybe it's a physical activity, a yoga class, or some other physical activity that, if you want to take up walking or join a friend who walks every morning. We have some new classes starting at Hope and Healing that I hope you'll consider, and maybe that's an opportunity for you to engage with something new. Sometimes we have to give back a piece of us in order to learn who we are. So volunteer opportunities are really incredible. We have lots of organizations around our area that are always looking for volunteers. Not only are you giving back to the community, but you're developing relationships and those connections. You will hear me say this. If you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard it. If you continue to listen to the podcast, this will not be the first time you hear it. And that is the importance of taking care of yourself before you take care of other people. And NIH says to take care of yourself while you're caring for others. So whether you are caring for children or parents or both, when we get into that, 50, 60, 40, 50, 60-ish year age range, we're kind of in that sandwich generation where we have children to care for, but we also have adult parents to care for. And so how are we taking care of ourselves while we are taking care of other people? And, I could jump on this self-care soapbox for ages, but the reality is, staying organized with the things that need to get done, not only for yourself, but for the other person, taking care of you, taking breaks, asking for help, engaging in hobbies and activities. And I know some people say, well, so-and-so needs my help all the time. I just don't have time for myself. If you don't make time for yourself, then I've heard it said before, if you don't make time for wellness, then your body will take time in illness and disease. We have to make the time to care for ourselves before our body says, nope, we're done. And then you have to then either slow down because of a physical ailment or because you're constantly at doctor's appointments because there's something wrong. What are your hobbies? Continue to do those things. Engage in those activities. And then, of course, feeding and fueling, moving and resting your body. I'll say it again. Feeding, fueling, moving, and resting your body. Because if you're not taking care of your physical self, then we're not feeding into our mental and our spiritual and our emotional self that then has to engage with that social health, right? Our social community and then our social health is not good. And part of engaging in social activities is this idea of community wellness and engaging with other people. I said at the beginning of the podcast, we all engage in people in terms of regular everyday stuff. But what about purposefully building a network of people to engage together to do an activity? Whether it's shared routines. I mentioned going for a walk with a neighbor or a friend. Is it telling a friend, hey, I'm going to do yoga every Thursday morning? Side note, that's when our new class is. I'm going to do yoga every Thursday morning. I want you to hold me accountable. I know you can't go with me, but I want you to ask me every Thursday how that class was. Or I'm going to text you after class to hold yourself accountable. Maybe asking your family to do an activity with you. Hey, let's go for a bike ride. Hey, let's go for a walk. Hey, let's go check out this new park. Getting together and engaging in an activity, because that movement, that social interaction, laughing and carrying on, kind of smiling and just experiencing life with other people is really important. And the next one from NIH is that we work with our family to develop healthy habits. So a lot of these go hand in hand. You can kind of hit all of these tasks or all of these topics within just a few activities. But if you decide that I'm going to engage in a walking routine, for instance, then your family is going to see you doing that. And at some point, someone's going to say, hey, can I join you? So as you improve your healthy habits and your social wellness and your other components of wellness, your family kind of jumps on the ship with you, and then you guys are doing it together. So now we have making connection, being active together, sharing in healthy routines. That is just a recipe for success. And it doesn't always have to be rigid health related things. It can be going to the park and swinging on swings. It can be, sitting outside and, catching lightning bugs. It's still summertime, so I feel like there's still opportunities for things like that, rather than everybody scattered to their respective corners on screens. So how can we influence each other and encourage each other and hold each other accountable for reaching this success? Because all of those things help us to bond with our children, bond with our family members, and to build healthy relationships. There's not a lot in terms of diving into this topic with a lot of great detail, because if you think about it, if we're making connections with people, then hopefully those connections are healthy relationships. So there's two of those components. If we're shaping and sharing in family healthy habits, then we're also bonding and connecting with our children, which is also helping us to get together in collective groups. And all of this means that we're taking care of ourselves while we are taking care of other people. I would invite you this week. You're listening to this podcast today. I'd invite you this week. What is one thing, different or new, that you can do this week as an opportunity to engage your social wellness? Is there an activity that you can go to? Is there an invitation that you can give to a family member or a friend to do something with you? Is there a new activity or class that you've been meaning to go to or engage with? How can you this week work on social wellness? Because it is one of the components of our overall wellness. We have already talked about in the previous episodes the first component as emotional wellness, and we're still going to be talking about occupational and financial wellness, spiritual and physical wellness as major components. And all of these are working together. All of these are interconnected. So if you haven't listened to it, jump back and listen to emotional wellness. And then I would invite you to continue to listen as we talk about the other components. But this week, the biggest invitation is go get connected. Go socialize and engage with people that bring out the best in you, people that help you to feel the best that you can be, and to live a happy and healthy, engaged life. As always, I'm open to hear your suggestions and your ideas. Feel free to email me, jennifer@hopehealingtherapy.com. Shoot us a DM on our socials, Facebook and Instagram, and I would love to hear how you are engaging for the components of wellness. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.